There is a version of hope that protects you. The kind that keeps you going when the path is genuinely difficult, and the outcome is genuinely uncertain, but the foundation is genuinely real. The kind that says, hold on, keep going, what you are building is worth the difficulty of building it. That kind of hope is one of the most valuable things a human being can carry. It sustains. It strengthens. It keeps you anchored to something true even when the circumstances are testing your commitment to it. And then there is another version of hope. A version that looks almost identical from the outside but functions in a completely opposite way on the inside. This version does not protect you. It keeps you in place. It holds you in a situation that has been showing you clearly and consistently that it is not working, not moving forward, not capable of giving you what you are genuinely looking for, while simultaneously preventing you from doing anything about it. This version of hope is not sustaining. It is consuming. And the frightening thing about it is that it uses your best qualities against you. Your loyalty. Your patience. Your deep and sincere capacity to care about another person even when that care is not being met with equal investment. It turns those strengths into the chains that keep you in something you should have walked away from long ago. Today we are going to talk about the signs that tell you, clearly and without ambiguity, that the woman you are investing in is not investing back. Not the signs that require complex psychological analysis or weeks of careful observation to decipher. The clear, obvious, behavioral signs that are already right in front of you. The ones you have probably already noticed, probably already felt, and have perhaps been running through the filter of charitable interpretation for longer than you want to admit. We are going to look at them honestly and directly. And for each one we are going to talk about what it actually means, what it is quietly doing to you, and what the only genuinely self-respecting response to it actually is. Because here is the truth that this entire conversation is built on. Your time is not unlimited. Your energy is not unlimited. Your emotional investment is not an infinite resource that can be poured endlessly into something that will never produce a return. Every week you spend waiting for a woman who is not interested to become interested is a week that cannot be given to finding and building with a woman who genuinely is. And you deserve that. Not someday. Not eventually. Now. You deserve to be with someone who actually wants to be there. Someone whose interest does not have to be decoded or coaxed or desperately held in place by the sheer force of your continued effort and your continued hope. So let us get into it. These are the signs. And if she is showing them to you, consistently and clearly, then with all the respect and all the directness this conversation requires, it is time to leave. Sign number 1. She consistently takes too long to respond to you. Let us be precise about this from the beginning because there is an important distinction that needs to be made. Everyone has genuinely busy days. Everyone has periods where their phone goes untouched for extended stretches because the demands of life are real and the 24 hours in a day are genuinely finite. A single delayed response, even a significant one, is not a sign of anything in particular. It is just life. And writing off a woman based on one instance of slow communication would be both unfair and premature. What we are talking about here is a pattern. A consistent, recurring, clearly established behavioral tendency to take unreasonable amounts of time to respond to your messages. And unreasonable, in this context, means beyond roughly 24 hours in the absence of an obvious and verifiable explanation. Because here is the truth that cuts through all the rationalizations you might be tempted to reach for when you find yourself on the receiving end of this pattern. When a woman is genuinely interested in you, when you have actually captured her attention and her desire in the way that genuine attraction works, hearing from you is something she looks forward to. It is something she makes time for. When your message comes through, she does not file it mentally under things to deal with when nothing more interesting is happening. She responds? Not necessarily immediately, because again, life is genuinely demanding and perfect responsiveness is not a reasonable expectation of anyone. But with a promptness that reflects the fact that hearing from you and responding to you is something she actually values rather than something she gets around to when everything else has been attended to. Think about it from your own experience. Think about the last time someone genuinely had your interest and your attention. When a message came through from them, How long did it take you to respond? Did you think to yourself, I will get back to them eventually when I have a free moment? Or did the message register as something you actually wanted to engage with and respond to in a reasonable amount of time because the person on the other end mattered to you? That is the reality of genuine interest. It does not require perfect availability. But it does produce a quality of responsiveness that reflects the actual priority the other person occupies in your life. And when someone consistently takes many hours, or a full day, or multiple days to respond to you, in the absence of an obvious and communicated reason, they are showing you the priority you occupy. Not the priority they tell you that you hold. The actual, behavioral, revealed priority. And it is not a high one. What this pattern does to you over time is something that deserves honest acknowledgement. Because the effect is not just the practical inconvenience of delayed communication. It is the daily, repeated experience of uncertainty. Of sending something out and not knowing whether or when it will be received and responded to. Of existing in a relational space where the basic question of whether the other person is going to show up today has to be asked and answered fresh every single time. That uncertainty is not neutral. It generates a low-level anxiety that runs underneath your daily experience, coloring your mood, distracting your attention, consuming mental and emotional bandwidth that belongs to the rest of your life. And the longer the pattern continues, the more normalized that anxiety becomes, until the chronic uncertainty of this particular dynamic has quietly become your baseline expectation of what communication in a relationship feels like. You deserve better than that baseline. You deserve to communicate with someone for whom hearing from you is genuinely a good thing. Someone whose response to your message is not a reluctant acknowledgement of an obligation, but a genuine expression of someone who is actually glad you reached out. That exists. And it is worth leaving what does not produce it in order to find it. Sign number 2. She cancels plans on you repeatedly. Plans are one of the most concrete, tangible, easily observable indicators of where someone's genuine priorities actually lie. Because making and keeping plans requires something real. It requires that you looked at your schedule and designated a specific window of time for this person and this activity. It requires that you maintain that designation even as other things competed for that same time. It requires that you showed up when the time came, even if something else had come up, even if you were tired, even if a more immediately appealing option had presented itself in the meantime. Plans are promises. Small ones perhaps, but promises nonetheless. And how someone handles their promises to you is one of the clearest indicators of how seriously they take their commitment to you. When a woman repeatedly cancels plans with you, she is communicating something that transcends the specific logistical reason offered for each individual cancellation. She is communicating that the time she designated for you was not actually protected. That when a competing demand or a competing opportunity arose, the plans with you were among the first things to yield. That the cost of canceling on you, in terms of her genuine concern about disappointing you or damaging what is between you, is not high enough to motivate her to honor her word. Now there is always an excuse. This is important to name directly because the excuse is often the mechanism through which the pattern disguises itself as something other than what it is. Something came up. There was an emergency. Work got complicated. She was not feeling well. And any individual instance of any of these things is completely plausible and completely forgivable. Life genuinely does intervene. Real emergencies do genuinely occur. The question is never whether any single cancellation is explicable. The question is whether a pattern exists. And if you can look back at your recent history with this woman and identify a consistent pattern in which plans were made and cancelled with a frequency that goes beyond the normal disruptions of life, the pattern itself is the message. Regardless of the content of each individual excuse. What the repeated cancellation pattern tells you is that she is not prioritizing you. And prioritization is not a passive thing. It is an active, ongoing series of choices about what matters enough to protect. A woman who is genuinely interested in spending time with you protects the time she has designated for that purpose. Not perfectly and not in every instance without exception. but with a consistency that reflects the fact that being with you is something she genuinely values rather than something she does when nothing else has claimed the time first. You should never have to feel like the backup option. Like the thing that happens when everything else has been attended to. Like the plan that exists only until something better or more urgent comes along. Your time and your presence deserve to be treated as something valuable enough to keep a commitment to. And if she keeps showing you through her actions that they are not, believe what her actions are telling you. Sign number 3. She introduces you as a friend. This one requires very little interpretation, and yet it is the sign that men most consistently and most creatively explain away. Perhaps because the implications of taking it at face value are so immediately and so conclusively clarifying that accepting it means accepting that a significant adjustment is required. And the mind, creative and resourceful as it is in the service of protecting what we want to be true, will often work very hard to generate alternative explanations for something this unambiguous. But let us be clear about what it actually means. When you have been seeing a woman, when you have been spending time together in ways that have felt to you like something more than friendship, and she introduces you to the people in her life as her friend, she is not making an administrative error. She is not simply defaulting to a casual label for convenience. She is telling you exactly where you stand in her life and in her self-understanding. She is telling the people who know her, the people who matter to her, the people in whose presence she is most herself, that you are not her romantic partner. You are her friend. And the person she is telling this to is not just them. It is you. There is a particular kind of clarity that comes with receiving this sign honestly rather than explaining it away. Because the woman who is genuinely developing romantic feelings for you, the woman who is genuinely moving towards something deeper with you, does not introduce you as a friend to the people in her life. She might use a range of descriptions depending on the stage you are at and the level of formality of the context. But she does not use a description that actively and specifically places you in the category of non-romantic relationship. Because doing that would feel wrong to her. It would not fit the internal reality of what she is experiencing. And she would know that it misrepresents what is happening between you in a way that might hurt you. And someone who genuinely cares about you in a romantic sense is motivated to avoid hurting you unnecessarily. When she introduces you as a friend, she is doing you the courtesy of telling you the truth about how she sees you. Even if she is not doing it as a deliberate act of directness, and even if she would not describe her own intention in those terms. The information is accurate. The only question is whether you are willing to receive it. Sign number 4. She tells you she is not ready for a serious relationship. Of all the signs we are going to discuss today, this one is perhaps the most direct and therefore perhaps the most important to receive with genuine seriousness rather than with the particular form of optimistic reinterpretation that turns a clear statement about someone's position into a challenge to be overcome. When a woman tells you she is not ready for a serious relationship, she is not issuing an invitation. She is not placing a barrier in front of something she actually wants and waiting to see if you care enough or pursue hard enough or demonstrate sufficient value to change her mind. She is not secretly hoping that you will prove her wrong. She is telling you, in plain and direct language, exactly where she stands. And the most respectful and the most self-respecting thing you can do with that information is to take it at face value. The narrative that says if I just demonstrate enough value, if I am patient enough, if I show her what a genuinely good man I am, she will eventually change her position, is one of the most consistently harmful stories available to men in the dating space. Because it transforms a clear no into a puzzle to be solved. It turns a direct and honest communication of someone's actual feelings and desires into a test that you can pass if you are good enough, patient enough, persistent enough. And in doing so it keeps you invested and engaged and emotionally committed to something that the other person has explicitly told you is not available. This is not about whether she is a good person. She may be a wonderful person. She may genuinely like you and genuinely enjoy your company, and genuinely feel some level of connection with you. None of those things contradict what she told you. A person can genuinely like you and still not be in a place in their life where they want what you want. A person can enjoy your company without being ready to offer you the kind of mutual, committed, forward-moving relationship that you deserve to be in. And her telling you that is not a failure on her part. It is an act of honesty that you should actually be grateful for. Because it gives you the information you need to make a genuinely free and genuinely self-respecting choice about where to invest your time and your heart. The genuinely self-respecting response to "I am not ready" is to believe it, to thank her mentally for her honesty, and to redirect your energy towards someone who is. Sign number 5. You are always the one who initiates contact. We talked about a version of this in a previous conversation, but it deserves its own full attention here because in the context of a woman who may not be genuinely interested, this particular pattern carries its own specific weight and its own specific implications. Go through your messages with her. Not the edited version in your memory where you recall the conversations that felt good and the moments that felt like genuine connection. The actual record. The actual chronology of who reached out first. Who sent the first message in the morning? Who followed up when things went quiet? Who kept the conversation going when it started to fade? Who is consistently and repeatedly the one who initiates while the other end of the exchange primarily receives and occasionally responds? If that exercise reveals a consistent, one-directional pattern where you are almost always the initiator and she is almost always the recipient, you are not in a mutual exchange. You are running a single-engine operation. You are the fuel that is keeping the entire thing airborne. And the critical question that follows from that observation is this. What happens when you stop? If you went silent for several days, not to play a game and not to test her, but simply as an honest observation of what the communication looks like when you are not supplying all the energy, would she reach out? Would she notice the quiet and move towards you to fill it? Or would the silence simply stretch indefinitely while she continues her daily life without any particular awareness that something is missing? The answer to that question is the clearest possible information about the reality of her interest. Because when someone is genuinely drawn to you, when your presence and your communication genuinely matters to them, they feel your absence. They notice when the contact they have become accustomed to receiving is no longer arriving. And they do something about it. They reach out. They check in. They move toward you because moving toward you is what genuinely interested people do. If she would simply drift away when you stopped supplying all the effort, she was never genuinely in it. She was enjoying the attention and the warmth that you were consistently providing without it generating in her the reciprocal desire to provide the same. And you deserve someone for whom your presence creates a genuine desire to respond to it. Someone who reaches out because they want to hear from you, not just because you reached out first. Sign number 6. When you try to take things to the next level, she goes vague. There comes a point in any developing connection where you have to assess whether what is growing between you is growing in the same direction for both people involved. Where the question of what this actually is and where it is actually going needs to be either asked or expressed. And the response to that moment, to that attempt to bring more clarity or more depth or more definition to what you have been building, is extraordinarily revealing. A woman who is genuinely developing feelings for you and who genuinely sees a future with you responds to your escalation with her own. She may not match your exact pace. She may need more time than you do to feel ready to use particular words or to take particular steps. But the direction of her response is toward you. There is a sense of movement, of genuine and willing engagement with where things are going, of someone who is on the same journey even if they are moving through it slightly differently. When she goes vague, when your expression of genuine feeling or your attempt to define the relationship more clearly is met with deflection, with laughter that does not engage, with a change of subject, with a carefully non-committal response that neither accepts nor directly refuses but simply refuses to acknowledge the weight of what you said, she is telling you something important. She is telling you that she is not on the same journey. That the feelings you are developing and trying to express are not being met with corresponding feelings on her end. And rather than being direct about that, for whatever reason, she is using vagueness as a gentler way of declining without having to say the word no. The kindest interpretation of this behavior is that she is trying to avoid hurting you by not being blunt. The least kind interpretation is that she is trying to maintain your interest and your continued investment, while avoiding the commitment that would make the dynamic honest. Either way, the effect on you is the same. You are left in the uncertainty of a situation that neither moves forward nor conclusively ends. And that uncertainty, sustained over time, is genuinely costly to your emotional well-being and to your ability to direct your energy towards something that can actually give you what you are looking for. Vagueness when you escalate is not a maybe. It is a no that has not yet found the courage to say itself directly. And the self-respecting response to a no, however indirectly delivered, is to receive it honestly rather than to keep pressing for a yes that is not coming. Sign number 7. She consistently blue ticks you and does not respond. Blue ticking, the act of reading a message and then making no response, is one of the more modern forms of relational dismissal. And like most of the signs we have discussed, the isolated instance of it is genuinely not particularly meaningful. People read messages in moments when they cannot respond and then genuinely forget to return to them. That happens. It is not a statement about your worth or their interest. It is just the practical reality of a distracted modern life. But consistent, repeated, deliberate blue ticking is something else entirely. When it becomes a pattern, when it is a recurring feature of your communication with her rather than an occasional lapse, it is making a statement. It is saying that she read what you sent, registered it, and made an active decision not to respond. Not because she was unavailable. She was clearly available enough to open the message and read it. But because responding was not something she felt sufficiently motivated to do. Think about what it takes to consistently not respond to someone you are genuinely interested in. To read their messages and then set them aside without engaging. To end the day knowing that someone reached out to you and you never got back to them without that awareness creating any particular discomfort or urgency. That quality of consistent non-response is only possible towards someone whose messages do not register as something genuinely worth engaging with. And whether that is because she is disinterested, distracted by other people and other things that matter more to her, or simply not in a place where you hold a real priority in her relational world, the effect is the same. You are being consistently shown that your communication is not something she feels motivated to prioritize. You deserve to be in communication with someone for whom your messages are something they are genuinely glad to receive. Someone who reads what you send and responds not out of obligation, but out of genuine interest in the exchange. Someone whose engagement with you creates enough forward energy that the idea of consistently leaving your messages unread would feel wrong to them. Because that is what genuine interest looks like in the daily texture of communication. And anything consistently falling short of that is worth paying attention to. Sign number 8. Her body language tells you everything her words will not. We have saved this for last not because it is less important than the other signs but because it is the most comprehensive. The most revealing. And in some ways the most difficult to rationalize away, because the body is one of the most honest communicators available. It speaks before the mind has organized a response. It reveals what the words have been carefully constructed to conceal. And it provides information about what is actually happening in another person's inner experience that their verbal communication, however skillfully managed, cannot fully suppress. When a woman is genuinely interested in you and genuinely comfortable with you, her body moves toward you. In the literal physical sense of the word. She closes distances rather than creating them. When you are sitting together, her body is oriented in your direction, open and receptive rather than turned away. She makes comfortable, willing eye contact. She laughs freely and easily. She is physically at ease in your presence. There is no tension in the way she holds herself, no subtle quality of managed distance, no sense that she is monitoring the physical space between you and ensuring it remains at a level she is comfortable with. And when a woman is not interested, the body tells you that too. Often more clearly and more honestly than any conversation could. She pulls back when you move closer. Her body language when you are together has a slightly closed quality, arms crossed, torso angled away, a positioning that creates and maintains distance rather than closing it. She is on her phone during conversations with you in a way that communicates her attention is genuinely elsewhere. Her eye contact is brief and exits easily. Her engagement with what you are saying has the quality of someone being polite rather than someone who is genuinely absorbed in the exchange. And there is an overall flatness to her physical presence with you, a lack of the animation and the ease and the genuine pleasure that characterizes someone who is happy to be where they are and with who they are with. These nonverbal signals are not subtle. They are actually extraordinarily obvious once you allow yourself to see them without the filter of hope. The challenge is not that they are difficult to read. The challenge is that most men who are invested in a particular outcome find ways to explain them away. To attribute the physical distance to her personality. To excuse the phone use as a habit she has with everyone. To interpret the closed body language as shyness rather than disinterest. But the body does not maintain these signals consistently without reason. And when you see them clearly and consistently, they are telling you something true. Something that the words and the explanations and the hopeful interpretations cannot ultimately override. So let us bring all of this together now. Because 8 signs is a significant number, and if several of them or all of them are present in your current situation, what you are facing is not ambiguity. It is clarity. Uncomfortable clarity, perhaps. The kind of clarity that requires something real from you in response. But clarity nonetheless. She consistently takes too long to get back to you. She cancels plans repeatedly. She introduces you as a friend. She tells you she is not ready. You are always the one reaching out first. When you try to deepen things, she goes vague. She reads your messages and does not respond. And her body language in your presence tells you without words that she is not fully there. These are not confusing signals. They are not the complicated, mixed, hard-to-read communications of someone who is interested but unsure or moving slowly for genuine reasons. They are a consistent, clear, behavioral pattern that points in one direction. And the reason they are so difficult to act on, the reason so many men continue to invest in situations that are showing them exactly this set of signals, is not confusion about what the signals mean. It is the particular emotional difficulty of accepting what they mean and doing what that acceptance requires. Because accepting what these signs mean requires accepting loss. The loss of what you hoped this would be. The loss of the version of the future that you had begun to build in your imagination around this particular person. The loss of the investment you have already made and the natural human reluctance to write it off by walking away. These are real losses. They deserve to be acknowledged as such rather than minimized. Leaving something you genuinely wanted is painful, even when staying is the choice that would ultimately be far more costly. But here is what else the acceptance of these signs makes possible. It makes possible your freedom. The freedom of your time, your emotional energy, your capacity to be genuinely present and genuinely invested in someone who is actually showing you the same things in return. Because all of that is currently being consumed by a situation that has been clearly and repeatedly demonstrating it cannot give you what you are genuinely looking for. And the moment you stop pouring it into what will not receive it, it becomes available for what will. You deserve to be with someone who responds to your messages because hearing from you is something they genuinely look forward to. Who keeps plans with you because spending time with you is something they actually value. Who introduces you to the people in their life with warmth and pride because being associated with you is something they want rather than something to be managed carefully. Who tells you they are ready because they actually are. Who reaches out first sometimes because you are someone who occupies genuine space in their thoughts and their desire. Who engages with your depth and your feelings with their own depth and their own feelings rather than retreating into vagueness. Who reads your messages and responds because your words matter to them. And whose body, when you are together, naturally and genuinely moves toward yours because being close to you is where they want to be. All of that is available to you. Not as a fantasy. As a real, genuine, achievable experience of being in a relationship with someone who is actually in it with you. The only thing standing between you and that experience right now is the situation you are currently in. And the situation you are currently in has been giving you everything you need to make a decision about it. The signs are there. They have always been there. And the most important thing you will ever do for your future, for your time, for the version of your life that is waiting on the other side of this, is to stop explaining them away and start listening to what they are actually telling you. Leave. Not with bitterness. Not with anger or resentment, or the need for a dramatic final word. But with the quiet, grounded, self-respecting clarity of someone who has finally seen things as they actually are, and has chosen himself, his time, his energy, his future, and the love he actually deserves. Because that love is real. And it is out there. And it will never find you as long as you are standing in a place that was never designed to give it to you.